PhatPhish Guitar Studio. Now, a friend of mine on Facebook posted a picture the other day of his effects pedals and said, are these in the right order? Am I getting the most out of the setup I've got here? So I thought I'd do a quick video talking about the order that you put your effects pedals in. Now, there's a lot of sort of popular wisdom about what order effects pedals should be in, and for everybody out there who says this is the conventional wisdom, be honest, you'll probably find somebody who says actually that's wrong. I found if I put such and such in front of or behind something in a different order, it works better for me. So as with all things, use this maybe as a starting point and then experiment, find out what works best for you. Most of what I'm going to give you now is kind of the conventional wisdom with a few bits and bobs of my own sort of experience thrown in. Now, effects pedals fall into a number of different categories and you can kind of block those together. Now, the first sort of category are what you can think of as shaping pedals. Pedals that shape your tones with things like filters like wah-wah pedals, compressors, limiters, that sort of thing. Now, conventional wisdom will say that should be the first thing that you've got in your effects chain. I kind of agree with that, but I would also say that there's something else which should be in front of all of those, and it's a tuner pedal. No pedal board is complete without a tuner. My personal preference is the TC Polytune 2. I've been using one of these for ages and absolutely love it. Boss also do a really good chromatic tuner as well. You can get clip-on tuners for your headstock and that sort of thing, but to be honest, I just think if you're playing with a pedal board, having a pedal board mounted tuner is the business. So first thing you should be going through tuning pedal, then your filter pedals, shaping pedals, things like wah-wahs and compressors and so on. Next up, the drive pedals, things that add a bit of distortion or gain to your sound. So here, the overdrive pedals, distortions, fuzz boxes and whatnot. Now, I know quite a few people, including my friend who posted the picture originally, have more than one drive pedal in the chain. And the question is, is a tube screamer sound better before or after a Boss blues driver? That all comes down to personal preference. Some people will say you should only have one good drive, and putting multiple drive pedals together just muddies the sound. Personally, I find if you chain drive pedals together, it can sound okay, but you've got to be careful not to put lots of drive into lots of drive into lots of drive. It starts to get muddy. But just adding a little bit of bite and tonality from different pedals in a chain, that works fine for me. Personally, I use Digitech Bad Monkey, which is my favourite out of the Ibanez Tube Screamer clones. Use that to give my sound a little bit of extra drive before it goes into the dirty channel on the amp. Yeah, that works fine. And also the pedals will have tone controls on them, so you can use those to tweak the EQ a little bit. Also in this category, I say things like a boost pedal. If you use just like a signal boost pedal, works well in front of the amp alongside your drive pedals. Personally, I would put the boost pedal last, so get a good distorted sound if you're using the overdrive pedals, and then boost the signal level into the amp to drive the sound a little bit more with the boost. Then I think the next port of call should be the amplifier itself. Any other pedals I would put in an effects loop after the preamp section of the amp. Exception to this is if you only use a clean sounding amp and all of your drive comes from the drive pedals, then you can put all of your pedals in front of the amp. If you're using any drive or distorted sound from the amp itself, then the other pedals really need to come after that drive stage, so they need to be in the effects loop. Reason being, the sort of effects that you put after that, like modulation effects, you can modulate a distorted sound and it sounds okay. If you distort a modulated sound, it sounds kind of weird. So what are the modulation effects? Well, these are the things that I would consider come next in the chain in the effects loop. So these are things that like the chorus pedals, phasers, flanges and so on, that add some sort of modulation effect to your sound. Now, as I said, I think these work better in the effects loop, and that's conventional wisdom, but there will be loads of people who say, oh no, I find that a phaser in front of the drive works really well for me. And it's horses for courses. Some people will find that works well for them. Whichever one you think is best, it's your personal opinion. Like I say, my preference is to have the modulation effects in the effects loop. Next in the chain, also in the effects loop, I think next would be like delay pedals and echoes, things like that. Followed by, people will say the last thing in your chain would be if you use a reverb pedal, or you use the reverb on the amp. The reverb on the amp actually comes after the effects loop, so that's the last thing in your signal chain. Where I would say I'd deviate from this sort of rule, and I certainly do myself, is the last thing in my effects loop. It comes after the delay pedal, and that is a BBE Sonic Storm. Now, this is quite a difficult pedal to describe. It's a sonic maximizer, which means it's got some clever electronics which does subtle phase shifting with different frequencies in your sound, and the end result is basically it makes your guitar sound better, and it works best when you put it at the end of the signal chain. So in my case, that's the last pedal in my effects loop. Now, when you're putting lots of pedals together, something you might suffer with is signal noise, particularly if you're putting more than one drive pedal into the chain. So you might want to consider a noise gate pedal. Where that sits in your signal chain, this is something I think you need to experiment with and think about where is the noise being introduced, and then put the noise gate after that. For example, if you've got a lot of pedals daisy chained together and they're introducing noise, put it after those pedals. If you've got, and those of you who have vintage Strats will know exactly what I mean, the guitar's got slightly noisy pickups. You pick up like lots of mains hum from them, as you get with vintage Strats and so on. What you might want to do is think about putting a noise gate at the start of your signal chain, so you've got noisy sound coming from your pickups into the noise gate, you've got a purer sound coming out, and then you start putting your effects onto a good quality sound, rather than having a noisy sound coming in, putting that through various effects, and then trying to remove the noise afterwards. Again, this is one that really varies on your personal circumstances and how you've got your signal chain set up. So I'd say if you're using a noise gate, experiment to find the optimal place for it in your signal path. What we're talking about here is a fairly basic monophonic setup. We're not getting into stereo splitting or anything like that. You can obviously be a lot more clever, introduce things like AB switches, ABY, so you can split your signal into two different paths, possibly have echo on one, not on the other. Introducing different levels of drive on different signal paths makes a much bigger sound. One technique I know works really well if you've got two amps. Split your signal fairly early and have either a clean sound or just a slightly overdriven sound. Split the signal path, take one path direct to an amp, the other signal goes through your main distortion, and that gives you a very big distorted sound, but you've also got a lot of clarity because of the clean sound in the mix as well, and how you adjust the two levels between the distorted sound and the cleaner sound. You can fine tune that to make it, find something that works best for you, but being able to have two signal paths gives you a lot more flexibility and a lot more options. But it's a lot more complex, and it's not something I'm going to talk about in any sort of depth here. Really, this discussion is just concentrating on getting your pedals in the order that gives you the best sort of combinations of sound. Having your pedals in the wrong order can really compromise your sound. Getting them in the right order can give you some tonal options that you possibly never knew existed and really get the most out of your gear. Like I said, it's conventional wisdom and you might want to experiment, but there's some basic guidance. So filters and shaping pedals, drive, modulation, delay, reverb, ideally bookended with a tuner at one end, and my personal preference, something like a sonic maximizer out the other end. So for the benefit of Jason, who asked the question originally, and anybody else who's been wondering about what's the best order for your effects pedals, I hope you found that useful. As always, if you like the video, please click the like button down there, and if you really like the video, please click subscribe so you can see the videos that I post onto YouTube. As ever, thanks very much for watching. If you've got a question that you want to submit for a future video, then there's a page here where you can submit your question, and don't forget to tell me who you are and where you're from. It's always good to know where people are in the world who are watching these videos. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.